Today I'm going to be changing the oil on a 2003 Honda Accord V6. Now, before I get started, I'm going to go ahead and just talk a little bit about oil. I'm not going to pretend to be an oil expert because I'm really not. But it is kind of important that you know a lot of people just generally put 530 in their car, and it's not a terrible thing to do. It really isn't. But the factory does have specifications on what oil the car prefers. Most newer Hondas and stuff, you're going to see 020. I think most newer cars in general, you're going to see 020. 520 on a little bit older Hondas. Now, I went ahead and got 1030 just to add a little bit of oil in there. It's up to you on really how you drive, kind of if you want to change your oil weight. I'd really just recommend whatever the factory recommends. Now, if we're talking oil brand, from everything that I've heard from, honestly, most of the oil information I've gotten about what oil is good, best, has come from AMSOIL guys. And if you're familiar with racing or anything like that, AMSOIL is a great engine oil. Now, it's usually it's sold by dealers, and that's usually who you're learning the information from. So it can be kind of biased, but what I've gained for most of it is that most of this oil that you get at the stores, it's just about the same stuff. It's not really any different, any worse. You're not gonna hurt anything by getting a different brand, at least in my experience, and it sounds like from their experience too. I wouldn't go ahead and get like an O'Reilly's brand or Advanced Auto or whatever it is, just a store brand, because what you're paying for whenever you buy oil is its ability, usually, to go from 10 to 30, 10 to 30, 10 to 30, 10 to 30, and meaning a 10-weight oil to a 30-weight oil. And over time, that ability wears out, and it loses the ability to do that, and you'll be stuck with either, after running it in the engine for a while, you'll be stuck with either a 10-weight or a 30-weight. I can't remember which one it usually sticks with, but it does tend to just stop changing its viscosity. So, you definitely want to, you don't want to buy just store oil unless you're just leaking it and profusely, and you need to get from point A to point B real quick. But I wouldn't run it in my car if I just rebuilt an engine and was trying to get the most out of the engine. I definitely wouldn't do that. But if you're not buying AMSOIL or anything like that, supposedly all this stuff is the exact same, really. So just get some oil that has a nice label and says it'll help your car and whatnot, because they pretty much all do, and pop it in your car and run it. Now, for oil filters, usually the go-to is, like, I got my oil at Walmart because it was $5 cheaper than the parts store, but they didn't have a Wix filter at Walmart, so I didn't buy a filter there. All they have is Fram. It almost looks like they have like a Fram deal there because it's just Fram everywhere. From my experience and everything that I've heard, Fram just doesn't have the filtration that most other filters have. Now, for Hondas, I highly recommend the Honda brand filter. It's the same as a Wix, same price, and everything. Even with the crush washer that's supposed to be replaced on the drain bolt, it's the same exact price as a Wix. So you're getting OEM quality for the same price as aftermarket, which is awesome. But Fram in general, just everything that I've heard and seen, it's just not a great filter. The only upside to it is that it's usually textured, so it's easier to take off. That's really the only advantage Fram has on anything. Now, maybe I think there are different steps up from Fram. Like, I can't, this may not be exactly it, but like a Fram Gold or something like that. There may be better versions, but generally if you just go get a Fram, it's not going to be a great filter. And it's definitely one you want to change every oil change. Oil filters can sometimes go multiple oil changes without needing to be changed. I wouldn't go multiple oil changes on a Fram. One is just enough. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get started on this oil change. So now I have the car jacked up, or on ramp, the handbrake pulled and it's in first gear. What I'm going to go ahead and do first is I'm going to take the oil cap and remove it. put it right here so I don't end up starting the vehicle up with the oil out of it, which is a common thing people do for some reason. So you just want to go ahead and put that there and make sure you don't close the hood and drive off with it, because you can't close the hood if this is right here. So you just it's just another way to make sure that you don't start it up without oil in it. So now that's up, it's jacked up, I'm going to make sure I have a drain pan ready. I'm going to get underneath here and show you where you want to start getting your oil from. Okay, so right here is where your drain bolt is, and this is on the passenger side of the car. And right there you can see through this area is the oil filter. Now there's a Fram on there right now. I didn't do the oil change last, but we have a Wix this time, so it's going to be getting taken care of. But you're going to want to reach through this area to get to the oil filter. I'm going to show you how to do all that. I'm going to get my drain pan under here and then kind of start. Now another thing you want to do is you want to make sure, they may sell them at O'Reilly's, I really don't know. But you can go to Honda and there's a little crush washer that you can see in between this bolt and this pan. You want to get one of those. They're extremely cheap. I think it's like 75 cents or something. But you make sure you get one of those to replace it, because I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, even at the dealership there's a lot of people there that do not replace them. They don't think it's worth their time. I always did, because whenever you do go to replace it, it's a lot easier if it's only been crushed once rather than like 40 times, and then it just becomes part of the bolt and it's a huge fight to get off. So it's much easier just to replace every time. This time I will not, because it's only the second time, so it won't be terrible the next time. But you definitely want to be sure, if you have time, to get one of those washers. It makes everything a whole lot easier in the future, and also helps prevent you from stripping this pan by over tightening it. So just something you want to keep in mind. Now to remove this bolt, you're going to want to get a 17mm socket, and just get that on there. And make sure you're on there all the way. You want to go ahead and, so you can see that's getting loose now. If you have a pan like this, you need to make sure that center cap is popped out and that this cap is popped off so the drain pan can breathe. Otherwise it'll overflow and then you'll have a big mess in your driveway. I'm going to set it back just a little bit further. Now where my hand is right now, it's bound to get soaked in oil, so I'm going to try to keep pressure holding the drain bolt against the pan. You can see it leaking out. And right there the drain bolt is actually out, but I haven't removed pressure off it yet. I'm going to quickly move my hand to try to keep oil from getting on it. Just like that. Very little oil. Now that pan almost missed, so it's good that I moved it back a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and let that drain. Now first you want to make sure, I forgot to mention this time, but you want to make sure that you have the car started up and that the oil is a little bit warm, so it'll come out much easier. If it's not, it will be really thick and won't come out very quickly, and you'll be here all day and you may not even get all of the old oil out, which is the point of an oil change, getting all that old oil out to put new oil in. So you're going to be sure you get all that out of there. Now I have the oil draining. I'm going to let this drain for a little bit, and then I will get at the oil filter. This is actually draining pretty well. I might be able to just move this over here and get under here real quick. So what I want to do is, you can see the oil filter right there, and I want to go ahead and grab it, just break it loose a little bit, and you can see the oil start coming down. You want a nice controlled run. You don't want it just going everywhere, getting everything around this whole area messy, because then you'll have a lot to wipe off. But it's pretty easy with the V6s. You can just have them both draining at once. You can see I went ahead and put the crush washer back on there. And if it just comes right on and off, it's usually okay to use again, but it's just whenever it doesn't want to come right on and off. That's whenever it becomes a pain. Now this one is about drained. I'm going to scoot back a bit because there's a good chance this is going to fall. Okay, now we're good. And you just make sure you try to get all that oil into the pan. And tilt the not the foil, but the filter back up. Put it upside down next to the other. And let that all drain. Now my new Wix filter right here, what I'm going to do is just get some of the oil that's in this pan, just get a little bit on my finger, and go around the edge of this seal. And what this does is just lubricates the seal, so whenever you're tightening it against the oil tree, it keeps it from tearing this O-ring or rolling it, or however you refer to that happening as, pretty much just ruining the seal. That's what you want to do. Then make sure your hand is dry. Get your filter. Put it back on up there. Spin it. You can feel it kind of snug against there. And just a little bit past snug is really all you want on there, because it's not going anywhere, I can promise you that. I mean, you can kind of feel a difference between where it's, you can definitely feel where it's going to fall off and where it's not, but it's definitely fine right there. You don't want to tighten it a crazy amount. Hand tight is just fine. Otherwise, next time you take this off, you'll have to rip holes in it and everything else to get it off there, because it'll be so stuck to there. So you need to be careful about that. Now this is just about done draining, it looks like. There's just a few drops. I'm going to take my drain bolt and put it back in there as it continues to drip on me. And just kind of... Alright, so now when tightening with this crush washer, what you want to do is, you can feel it's snug right now. It literally just contacted the pan. There's not even much to it, so what I'm going to do is just a little bit, and then right there is probably fine. You don't want to crank on this, especially with it having an aluminum pan. You'll pull the threads right out of it. So now we have our filter on here tight, we have our bolt on here tight, and what you want to do is just kind of go around under here and start wiping off areas where oil is hit. I wouldn't worry about the exhaust too much, but I mean, it's all going to burn off, so just go ahead and wipe down everything though. Make sure it's all clean, and so you're not leaving a whole bunch of drops in your driveway. Of course, you can see this engine already leaks. Not a whole lot you can do about that, but you just want to make sure none of the drops are caused by you. So clean it up as well as you can, and then let it back down on the ground. Now, I believe the fluid capacity on the V6s is something like 3.4, but it's something like 4.5 or something like that. So what I did was I put 4 quarts in it, and I'm going to go ahead and pull it backwards because I've lived on a sloped driveway. It's not going to be in very accurate reading, so I put 4 quarts in it. I'm going to go put it on the driveway, or not the driveway, but the street down there where it's more level, and then recheck it. Being half a quart low isn't going to hurt anything, but what's also important is that I start it up and fill that new oil filter with oil, so I get an accurate reading of what's actually in the pan, which is actually what you're measuring when you put the dipstick in there, is how much oil is in the pan. So when that filter gets filled up, it's going to take oil out of the pan. It's going to stay in there, do the anti-drain back valve that's in it. So I'm going to pull it backwards onto the level ground and then check it. Now, interesting, the 4 quarts I put in there actually turned out to be like right on the dot. So I guess put 4 quarts in there. I thought there was a little bit more than that in there, honestly, but I guess it's only 4. I actually probably put, let's see where it's at. Yeah, it's like right at 4, so I guess 4 quarts is what it takes. But yeah. So if this helped you out, leave a like, let me know. Actually, no, there's one more thing. So as you can see, we've just done an oil change, and we're going to try to get this maintenance required light off. Now what we're going to do is, right now you can see it's on. This is just on to show you that the light is on. We're going to turn the key off, and you can't see it that well, but there's a trip reset right here. You want to hold that. Then you want to turn your key on to the 1, 2, and the second position is the on position, the ignition on. So you want to just keep holding this trip button. You can see it turn itself off, and now it's reset. So that's pretty much all there is to it. It's not that difficult. If this video helped you out, let me know by leaving a like. That would be awesome. If not, leave a comment. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to help. Most of all, just let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching.